I think the fact that schools are everywhere, that Hizmet has really committed itself to these schools, I think is terrific, you know, around the world. And I'm particularly happy to see them in poor areas where kids would not have the kind of quality education they're getting from the Hizmet schools. Turkey, nothing about Islam, and nothing about the movement. And so, as Fethullah Gulen is the ability to inspire people, is the ability to get people I think that My name is Jim Harrington, and I'm the director of the Texas Civil Rights Project, and I also teach at the University of Texas. Well, I think I first got introduced to Hizmet movement back in 2008, which is about 6 years ago, and I think that my views over a period of time obviously have changed and grown. And I've come to see the movement, the Hizmet movement, really as a community service organization, but service in a deeper sense, not just providing food or not, but also trying to build a community, working with people in the community, different faiths, different economic groups. So I see that that kind of movement that has some depth to it, and it's also motivated by folks in their faith. Well, you know, my views about Fethullah Gulen are pretty interesting, I think, in the way that they have developed, because when I first went on the interfaith trip to Turkey, I knew nothing about Turkey, nothing about Islam, and nothing about the movement. And so as I learned more and more, you know, you never quite get a good picture. It evolves. And then I ended up writing a book about the political trials that happened in 2000. And I think that as I was writing the book, I got a greater knowledge, of course, of Mr. Gülen and people in the movement. And then after the book was published, I actually went and met him. And I think what I see in terms of Fethullah Gulen is the ability to inspire people, is the ability to get people to think about their own spirituality outside of themselves, and also to be part of the community. And I think the other interesting thing that he has done, you know, he's coming out of the Sufi tradition, and what's good about that is that it has a very wide view of the world, and it's a movement that reaches out to people, and it's a movement that accepts science, you know, and is very open, and tolerant and non-judgmental. The problem with many religious groups, of course, is that they're judgmental, right? You have to be in this group or you're out. But I think the inclusiveness is important, and I think it's particularly important to show that to Americans, or to different parts of the world, where Islam is relatively new. The more knowledge we have, theoretically at least, we ought to be more understanding and more tolerant. But, or I should say and, what I've come to learn is the other good part of dialogue is that it also is helpful to yourself, right? I think my becoming acquainted, having built up an acquaintance, I guess you would say, with folks who are in the Sufi tradition, I mean, that has helped my own spirituality, right? And helps me, you know, I look at Rumi, for example, or some of the Sufi mystics, and then go, well, let me see what's going on over here in the Christian tradition, so, or the Jewish tradition, you know, because I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we all get to the same place, right? I think that we all agree on that. We have different ways to get there, different paths, but and I think that dialogue is good that way. It's not just tolerance, but it's also growth. you know? And for a Christian to say, I don't need to talk to a Muslim because I belong to the true faith, doesn't work. I mean, we have to, and the same thing vice versa. For a Muslim to say, I don't want to talk to a Christian because I have the true faith, you know, is to say that we can't grow from each other. And we can grow from each other. We do grow from each other. The question is, are we afraid? And many people are afraid of dialogue. Many people are afraid of dialogue. And I think people who are afraid of dialogue are people that aren't grounded enough in themselves. Now you see a lot of criticism, right, going on these days, particularly in Turkey, in the political turmoil that the Prime Minister is causing. And I think part of the criticism that's going on is because he recognizes the threat, in a sense, of Hizmet because of the integrity of the movement. That this is a movement of principle, this is a movement of spirituality, that this appeals to people, right? And when Hizmet criticizes something in the government, it's a very serious criticism on behalf of the Prime Minister. He feels threatened, right? And so I think people have to understand that dynamic, right? That if Hizmet was not doing a good job, it would not be criticized. The fact that it is being criticized means that it is actually doing good work. Hizmet has a challenge to the way business has been done in Turkey. People thought there was going to be a lot more change with the AK party. It turns out it's not. In many respects, it's continuation of the way government had been going on. And part of the continuation, of course, is we don't like Hizmet telling us that we need to be doing a better job. It's an opposition. I think that anytime you have an organization like Hizmet that is driven by principles other than political principles, right? Principles of religion or spirituality, that sort of thing, that there's always going to be criticism. Because people don't like, if you're living in the status quo, people don't like to see others tell them, either by word or by example, that they should be doing better. And so as human beings, we tend to criticize anything that is different or makes us uncomfortable, right? Rather than looking at the movement, for example, and saying, what is the message the movement's giving me? You know? And I mean, how can you possibly fault an education program, or how can you possibly fault hospitals? How can you possibly fault getting kids ready to go to college? So those are all good things, right? And maybe what is going on with people sometimes is that they don't want to become as involved, or they don't want to become as generous, and so there's criticism. I think the fact that schools are everywhere, that Hizmet has really committed itself to these schools, I think is terrific, you know, around the world. And I'm particularly happy to see them in poor areas where kids would not have the kind of quality education they're getting from the Hizmet schools. I think it's just tremendous work. I think Fethullah Gulen was totally right when he said, what we need are more schools, not more mosques, right? And I mean, the same thing, you know, you look around the United States, you look around Texas, you see huge churches going up. And they're right next to communities where kids live that don't get good education. The way you become a very good person, a good member of society, and develop spirituality is through education. Really is through education, right? It's so important. I'm amazed at the dedication of the teachers. I mean, these folks that are teaching are dedicated. It's not a 9-to-5 job for them, or 8-to-5 job. I mean, they're dedicated. They stay with the kids at night, you know, work with them, work with their families. I mean, it's part of that spiritual component that I was mentioning earlier that helps people in their work, right? It's not like, well, I'm going out to make a living, I'm going to get, you know, whatever, I get paid, and then I'm going to go home. But I'm dedicated. This is part of my mission in life, is to help these kids get educated. So I think the schools are terrific, absolutely terrific. I think running any sort of charitable foundation anywhere is good. You know, we do it in the United States. We have Christian groups that go to Muslim countries, or go to non-Christian, non-Muslim, Hindu societies. You know, just part of our own religious belief or our own spirituality is sharing, right? And we share in the sense that we don't put strings on it. Here's some food, you need food. You don't have to become a Christian to eat, you know. My job as a Christian is to feed you. And the same thing, and we ought to encourage and respect other religious groups doing the same. You know, for the movement to set up a foundation that helps in earthquakes and typhoons and floods, and I'm sure will be helping with the situation in the mines, you know, is good. And to go help other folks in other parts of the world, whether they're Christian or non-Christian or whatever. It doesn't matter, I think, ultimately, right? Our duty is to serve people. Our duty is to help people. And it doesn't matter what belief they have.
I must say that my experiences in terms of the Hizmet movement, it is going back to the idea that Islam is a way of life. It's lived. And as a consequence, you set an example.
I'm impressed that the movement goes all over the world to try and provide education where education standards are not very high.